Hello, welcome back. In the last video, we have seen why we need controller, alright? And I have given you an intuition that in how a, a command center or a controller can help us in running the multiple users workload, alright? And in this video, I'm going to show you how to invoke load runner controller, and I'm going to show you very basic things about load runner controller, and I'll leave you with a lot of ideas so that you can play yourself with the controller. Alright, and we will explore in detail about controller in subsequent videos. So to start with controller, let's go to the all programs and we go to HP. So HP software, HP load runner, and you see that you will find something called controller, and click on controller. Okay, so this is the controller interface is coming, and it will ask you to start with what are the scenario type. I will explain you about manual scenario and goal oriented scenario in later videos, but just for now, just default whatever is coming, just say okay here. So what you are seeing right now, it is the load runner controller without any scenario. And a scenario is how many number of users you want to run, what kind of script those users are going to run. So that is what is called a scenario. So right now it's a blank scenario, nothing is there, no group, no script path, nothing is there, and I'm going to show you how to create one. Notice that there are three pane here. One is scenario groups, second one is service level agreement, and another one is schedule. So this is what it is to start with. And also you see there are three more panes here in the below. So first, right now I'm in the design session, and I will first design a scenario. To design a scenario, first thing I need to do, I need to say add group. Okay, so here when we want to add group, it will ask me, what is the group name. So let's say the group name is G1. Okay, you can give any group whatever you want, and then let's say in that group I'm going to start 10 virtual users. Okay, and then it will ask me what is the load generator name. So remember that these are called load generators, and very well these load generators can be a remote machine, and also it can be a local host. So for this demonstration point of view, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a load generator, and that load generator is local host. Okay, so if you have already configured load generators in a remote machine, then you can always add that machine. We will do that example at a later point of video, but for this time being, just make localhost as the load generator for you and do okay. And now it is saying which script. Remember that we have developed a lot of script in the last chapter. Okay, and one of the script is browse lesson v2, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose browse lesson v2 here for my for this scenario. So now what I did, I created a group, that G1, and that group is going to run 10 virtual users. Remember last time when we were explaining all these things, that we're going to start 10 users. So this is exactly the same scenario. We are starting 10 users, and each of those 10 users are going to be started and run the script which is browse lesson v2. If you notice, browse lesson v2 is going to look like this. Okay, in the browse lesson v2, we are first going to call init method, and then we are going to call action. Inside action, we are calling this get book id, read book, and get course id. So essentially what is going to do this, when we're going to run the scenario, 10 users simultaneously going to execute this script browse lesson v2. Okay, and here the service level agreement, we can say, we can define our service level agreement. For this simple scenario, let's not consider that. Here in the scenario schedule, what we are saying how we are going to start those 10 users. So at this time I am saying that here's my pattern. The pattern is that I'm going to initialize each V user before it runs. Okay, so first the initialization will happen, and after that they're going to run. Okay, then I'm saying that start two virtual user in every 15 second. So that means at time t is equal to 0, I'm going to start two view user. At time t is equal to 15, I'm going to start another two users. So that means at time t is equal to 15, I have four users. And if you do the math, we at time 1 minute, we are starting all 10 users. And after that, we are saying that run this thing for 5 minutes. So we are running this thing for 5 minutes now. Okay, we are running this thing for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes we are shutting down, we are stopping the virtual user in 5 users in every 30 seconds. That means after 6 minute 30 second, we are going to stop all those virtual users. So this is how your V user is going to ramp up, then going to run on a steady state for 5 minutes, then it's going to ramp down and test will finish. So essentially in the scenario schedule, you can see how your scenario is going to run. We are going to see various different pattern in next videos, but for this case we have designed our scenario. So let's now save this scenario, and when to save this scenario, I'm going to saving my scenario in chapter in my machine, and let's say this is called this test scenario. Now notice that this test scenario, okay, which is in a file called test.lrs, is going to keep track of all the metadata about that 10 users we are going to start, and the schedule of those 10 users, how they're going to ramp up, then run the steady state and ramp down. So all these parameters are going to be stored in this file called test.lrs. This test.lrs can be opened by the controller. Okay, and if you see, these are nothing. I mean, if you ever open this test.lrs in a notepad or some editor, then you will see these are some metadata about what time is going to start and all this thing. Now basically what you're going to do, whenever we are going to go to the run tab and say start scenario, then all those things in LRS file will fed to this program called controller, and this controller program is going to spawn these 10 threads and then run the test. So let's start scenario, and it will ask where to store the result. Just yes, and notice that two user start in it. Okay, and if you notice that we have told that first initialize all those users and then run. Okay, so initialize two users and then run. Then the second group we're going to start. Then they're going through the initialization phase right now, and then once it's done, it's going to start running. Okay, so on is going to start running, and then what you're going to see, you're going to see a lot of graphs. These are real-time graphs about what is happening right now on your test. Okay, and don't worry, we are going to explain all these things in much detail, you know, in the videos that is going to come. So basically this is what I'm going to show, what I'm showing here. So essentially what I'm showing here is the capability of load runner controller. Without writing a single line of code, whatever the code that you generated using VUGen, you can just use those things to create a scenario and then run using controller. There are a lot of things to be done here. What I'm saying is that go and then see, like, you know, what are the different things, and then try to play with the different tools that is available. And so for example, I'm going to see the transaction. So here I'm doing the lesson transaction. Remember, the transaction name that I've given here is a lesson. So therefore it's saying that okay, these lesson transactions are being executed. At this time I've already 10 such transactions are passed, but still it's going to go continue because we told to run till 5 minutes. So I'll stop the scenario. So at this time I don't have an intention to run everything, so therefore I'm going to stop the scenario. Okay, so this is what is a very basic thing about controllers, and my suggestion here is to, you know, to start playing with it with different kind of script and trying to basically see, create another group and then basically try to play with all this tools available here in the controller interface.